and gentlemen, could I have your attention for about 7 or 8 minutes? I'm going to tell a story about a mother and 2 daughters. Her husband was killed in an air crash, and she was left with 2 young children, which she had to rear and have them educated. And she done a great job, reared them well, and she saw that they got a first-class education facing the world. And I'll tell you one thing, they were 2 fine-looking women. But first girl, she started going out with a man in her early 20s. After about 6 months, she brought him home to the mother. And when the mother saw her, she wasn't one bit impressed by him. Xmas was this fella's name. She looked up to him, she was thinking about the great man she married. He was a great husband. But Xmas, he was a long-scored loon of a fella, and he'd a jaw on him to slice rashers. And when he'd walk, he'd a sort of a drag in his leg. You'd think that his ass was sewed with gags. And if you ever saw a fella that came out of a doss house, it could be a Sunday morning or it could be any morning of the week, he usually had a gimp. And the gimp was usually going toward the right-hand side. Now, in my travels, I don't think I ever saw a fella that came out of a doss house and he's going towards the left. But I don't know whether Xmas was in the doss house or not, I have no idea. But he had that bit of a gimp going towards the right. So, Xmas came, sat down, and they had tea, apple cakes and sweet cakes and the usual. And there was a board put in the middle of the table. They were using tea bags. And the tea bags were put into the bowl. So when the meal was over, Xmas put out a little bag out of his pocket and he put the tea bags into the bag. Well, when the mother saw him, she started looking at him. He was collecting the tea bags to make second-hand tea. And she was thinking of her daughter, that if she married this man, she's second-hand tea she'd be drinking. She'd be getting a lot more second-hand tea in that house with that man. So, the other girl, she was going out with another man. And after about 8 or 9 months, she brought him home to meet the mother. And when the mother saw him, she wasn't one bit impressed by him. He was a fine-looking man, fine-headed black hair, there's no doubt about it. But he claimed he was only 55. But the mother claimed he was far too old for her daughter. Her daughter was only 23, 24. And he was nearer to 60. And before he came to meet the mother, old age was creeping in. He had grey hair here at both sides, and he got the boot polish. Some people call it black beauty. And he rubbed the boot polish into the grey hair. He done a good job, all right. There wasn't a sign of a grey hair. But when they sat down to have the tea, the house was very warm. And then the polish melt, and 2 tracks came down along the jaw here and ran down inside his shirt. Well, the mother, she was looking at him. She couldn't believe it. So the daughter had to take him down to the pool and wash the polish off him. And then the grey hairs appeared, because the tooth will always prevail. But he was living with his mother, and he was going to the butcher every fortnight, and this was his order. A quarter of a white pudding, a quarter portion, and a quarter of a black pudding, and a half pound of rashers, and a half pound of sausages, and a half an ingan. And the butcher said, I can't sell you half an ingan. Well, if you don't sell me a half an ingan, he said to the butcher, I'll take my business elsewhere. But anyway, for Peter said, the butcher sold him a half an ingan, of course, he had dumped the other half. But to make a long story short, the 2 of them got married in the same church, and they had a reception in the same hotel. You see what happened with the 2 of them? They had very deep pockets and short hands. There was no honeymoon. It was back to the grinding stone. It was all work. But within 4 years, when the 2 of them did, and the mother, she was in an awful state. She buried her husband, and now she was burying 2 son-in-laws. One of them died in a car crash and the other died of a rare disease. So they say in life that it brings changes. And the two daughters, they were two widow women and they weren't even 30. They decided to emigrate to a foreign country. And they got on very well. And they came back after about 3 or 3.5 years with two young husbands, the same age as themselves. Two fine-looking men, non-national. They had good English and they looked after their wives very well. And the mother, second time around, she was delighted. They got on very well. And shortly there was a new generation and small shoes around the house. And the mother was delighted. They got on like a house on fire. She lived to be a ripe old age. But that's life. It has its ups and downs, and you have to take it as it comes. Thank you very much for listening to me.